point out that she's held to a different standard than other characters, which objectively I believe is true. It seems as if people who don't like Daenerys jump on every little thing that she does, while overlooking the same behavior in other characters. But people who like her probably have some blind spots as well. I'll address this as we go, but wanted to bring it up and let you know that I'm not a Daenerys hater. She's not my favorite player in the game, but I do root for her. I've also been hoping against hope that her journey doesn't involve a trip to the dark side for what it's worth. I won't retell Daenerys' whole story in this video, but there are very good reasons to like her as a character. Her story has a hard beginning, forced to live on the run, hiding because she will always be a threat to the person that sits on the Iron Throne if she's still alive. She's used as a pawn and married off into a culture she knows nothing about, to a man she doesn't know, all so that her brother can get an army in return. She makes the best of that situation only to lose everything anyway. After she loses her husband and their unborn child, she does something truly miraculous. She emerges unburnt from a funeral pyre with 3 living dragons. This sets off an inspiring journey where she continually draws followers to her. In this period, we see that she has good intention. Sure, she has an end goal of returning to Westeros to take back the throne, but she spends a good deal of time fighting against the institution of slavery in the East. This turns out to be a perfect setup because slavers aren't sympathetic characters. Even though her execution isn't without problems, she's definitely on the right side of things, trying to improve the lives of other human beings, and who doesn't like a breaker of chains? She also gives a moving speech to Tyrion where she talks about wanting to break the wheel. This sounds great at the time because we've seen that the current system that's in place in Westeros could use some breaking. When she gets to Westeros, Daenerys sets aside her ambitions to take her army north to fight against the army of the dead, and no one really seems to give her much credit for it. Presently in the story, she's lost just about everything as a result of making that decision. And there's much more to like about Daenerys, but the point is, if you join Team Daenerys and want to see her realize her best intentions for the world, that clearly makes sense. She's inspiring, possibly even empowering, and especially when compared to other characters in this story in positions of power, she appears to have a leg up in the caring about humanity department. In light of all the good things that Daenerys has done, why have some people been saying that she would turn into a mad queen or a villain for such a long time? It's not a new idea, and even though I never jumped on board with it, I can't remember a time when people weren't throwing this out there as a possible endgame for Dany's story. Are people just haters that are holding her to a different standard because she's a powerful woman? I mean, there is some of that going on, but I believe there's more baked into her story. As a good fictional character, Daenerys has some troubling things about her to balance out her good intentions. For one, having never been to Westeros, she believes that she would be its best possible ruler on account of her birthright. Based on what I've seen on the internet, this really seems to rub some people the wrong way, and makes them view her as entitled. Personally, I tend to look at this as a problem with the system that Daenerys inherited. As I brought up, she tells Tyrion that she wants to break the wheel, and at the time that sounds great. But as things progress, we realize that her ancestor Aegon Targaryen created that wheel when he conquered Westeros to become the king. When she talks about breaking the wheel, she isn't talking about replacing the system that her family put in place. She's talking more about removing the spokes that are the other families jockeying for power, and in essence taking a tighter grip on the wheel itself. That's actually troubling rather than inspiring, regardless if it's based on good intentions or not. The proverb that absolute power corrupts absolutely comes to mind here because that's what it's about. A person's moral sense diminishes as their power increases. The other thing working against Daenerys is her dragons. In a world where no one else has this type of weapon, even having one like she does at this point in the story is problematic. The main reason I'm making this video is that there's a real chance she might burn down King's Landing and kill a bunch of innocent people that people fear her because she has Drogon, and they should. When things don't go her way, she can always resort to the nuclear option, and that's dangerous for anyone who opposes her. For me, these are the big reasons I never thought her sitting on the Iron Throne was the ending that was coming. I defaulted to her dying in an act of sacrifice, but George R.R. Martin may have had a different plan all along. We're supposed to like Daenerys for the good she's done, but I don't believe we should be rooting for her to become the absolute ruler of Westeros. Even if she was the best leader that there has ever been, she wouldn't live forever. And we've seen in Westeros' history that things can go bad quickly when the wrong person sits on the throne. This has to be in the back of the mind of the guy who wrote this story, in my opinion. Based on the fact that we've seen wars over this throne and we've seen people do unspeakable things in pursuit of it, that has to be in the back of our mind that maybe the throne is the actual problem. Maybe the idea of the throne itself and the way it corrupts people is something that we should really be concerned about, and even if we really like a character, maybe it's not a great idea for anyone to sit on that throne. So there's good things about Daenerys, and she has problems built in. After episode 4, we saw that she has basically lost everything, and she's holding on to her claim to the throne like it's all she has left. As viewers, I think we all realize that her heart is in the right place, that she's doing things coming from a place of good intentions, but we can also see that it looks like she's past the point of no return when it comes to the throne, based on the string of unfortunate events that Season 8 has laid in front of her. It's a tragic situation, and there really isn't any other way to view it. In the show, she's facing a decision against a formidable foe. Cersei has set things up in a way that Dany is damned if she attacks King's Landing, and we think in her mind she believes she's damned if she doesn't. Since I've never had high hopes of her becoming the ruler of Westeros at the end, it's not completely unthinkable to me that she might turn and give in to her darkest impulses here. Still, I have been resistant to this idea, so the question is, has that properly been set up? Considering I just made a video a few days ago where I said I didn't think she would go Mad Queen, I guess you could say for me, I don't think so. At the same time, people have had this idea for a long time, so there is some groundwork for it. It doesn't come out of the blue. After taking a look at this throughout the week, I think it comes down to how you interpret the clues, in the books anyway, based on how you feel about Daenerys. It could go either way. Her worrying about becoming like her father could be an indication that she won't do that. She won't go down that path. Or it could be there to let us know that it's possible. The Targaryen line is filled with incestuous marriages, and there are complications that come along with that. I think most book readers agree that she'll probably burn down King's Landing under different circumstances. But there's a difference in that idea because there would be a chance for her to learn from that mistake and turn things around. In the show, the potential burning of King's Landing is tied in with her endgame directly, and it makes me wonder if they set up a dark turn in the show properly. For me as a viewer and a fan, the one real criticism I have of the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones is that too much happens off screen. That leaves us scrambling to make sense of the events we see happen. It just feels rushed. It's felt that way since they shortened the seasons, and I don't think that you can overlook that if you've been a fan of the show since the beginning. Technically, the seeds have been planted for her quest for the throne to go badly. There are several examples of times when she threatens to destroy her enemies if they get in her way. In season 6, she told Tyrion that she would crucify the Masters, set their fleets afire, kill every last one of their soldiers, and return their cities to the dirt. Of course, Tyrion talks her out of it, and we don't really care that much since they're slavers, but this is just one example of many. Because she is a gray character, most of us overlook these impulses in favor of the good that she'd done. When I go back and look at it, I see these things are there, but what I see unfolding in front of me in season 8 still feels abrupt. I'm just a fan, not a TV critic, and I believe everyone deserves to have their own experience when it comes to watching something they care about. I'll leave it up to you to decide if you think they've laid the groundwork necessary, and say that if you didn't see it coming, I understand that. However, let's not forget that we're watching the show that featured the guy we thought was the hero get beheaded in the first season, and also gave us the Red Wedding. In conclusion, Daenerys is a very gray character that has always had a problematic, if not tragic, trajectory. The thing that she's after may be her undoing, and that's a sad proposition in light of the good that she's done. Since this story is probably not about restoring the rightful monarch to rule over Westeros, there's always probably been something else planned for her. This may not be what you were hoping for, but it doesn't make it a bad story either. Even if she turns into the Mad Queen and loses it under the weight of everything that she's lost, she is much more than a Mad Queen and always will be. She's made her mark. At the very least, I think she would deserve a place in the history books as the Targaryen who could have conquered Westeros, but instead made the right decision to help save humanity from the existential threat of the White Walkers. Am I saying there's no way things can turn around for Daenerys? Of course not.